Hey guys, MD Gaming here, and today I'm going to talk about Japanese cruisers and how to play them from Tier 5 to Tier 7. These builds are going to focus on maneuverability along with the detectability, and the good commander for this one is going to be Makawa. And that's because you can build them into a good detectability, maneuverability build, which is going to have your Japanese cruisers really excel. I recommend Membeli because he's going to increase your DPM along with Norman Scott because it's going to make sure your rounds get on target. Now looking over at the traits for Makawa, I'm going to use Ingenious for the gun traverse speed and warning indicator to let me know how many men are attacking. Full speed ahead for the rudder shift to make me more maneuverable. Sponge, so incoming damage to cruisers is lessened. Steer clear, so again, focus on that rudder shift time. And buy the book because it's going to focus on damage control because you are going to get shot multiple times. So let's get out of here and let's get to the gameplay. The big thing with these type of cruisers is that you want to try to bait the enemy into making them pull themselves out of their cover or position so your teammates can also attack them while you're also laying down fire. So you're going to see in this game right here that I don't score as high, I don't place first, but it perfectly shows how a player should be playing with a Japanese cruiser in order to be advantageous for the team and go for the wins. So I'm moving over to A. I want to try to provide cover. I'm also going to try to go laterally to where the enemy spawns. That way I can move left and right. And basically what I'm going to try to focus on is never going broadside because IGN cruisers have a pretty easy citadel to hit. You get hit once or twice, a high chance that you're done for. A great thing about the IGN cruisers also is they have amazing torpedoes. They have great range and also amazing damage. So whenever possible, try to shoot them to create a wall of torpedoes around corners where you think destroyers might be going, or cruisers, or even battleships around the corner. Because the more and more you lay those torpedoes down, the less avenues your enemy has to try to push you without taking some heavy damage. Now I was going to focus on going to the left, but looking at the minimap I see there's no real enemy pushing towards A because B just is starting to get taken, so there has to be the destroyer there. So I'm going to take this opportunity to then try to take A for my team, because ultimately everyone to the right of me is kind of telling me that no one's really pushing A from the enemy, and it gives us a good chance to start collecting points. It does put the Japanese cruisers in a disadvantage because this is not how they play, and it will put me against a island on my backside. So if I needed to maneuver out of it, if someone were able to spot me, or if the destroyer would move from Bravo to A and see me, then I'd have the Iowa, Kansas, Maines all on me, which would be absolutely disastrous as a Japanese player. You'd probably see me dead at the 12-minute mark for sure. But that's not the case here. I'm able to push. The enemy destroyer is just deep into B. I'm going to focus my guns now on the Kansas because ultimately he's my biggest threat to getting into my 11.2 bubble. I don't want to shoot at all because as soon as I fire at him, he's going to focus on me. And that's not what we want as a cruiser with an island right next to you. What we want is for him to focus on C-cap so we can get a couple of shots and then try to draw his attention off. But now I'm spotted by the Flint to the north of me. As a Japanese cruiser, you should be trying to set that torpedo wall. So hopefully the Kansas tries to follow you into it. And now I'm trying to move myself left and right in order to avoid the shots from not only the Kansas, but also the cruisers over here. So as you can see, the Flint and the mines are both shooting at me right now. And I'm just trying to move left and right, make myself as hard as the target as possible. And that is what makes the Japanese cruisers so effective when facing a lot of enemies, is just, they just keep moving back and forth, adjusting where the ability to target is. So when people are trying to use the auto aim, they're unable to really get a good acquisition on your guy. And they get frustrated, so they're trying to push to get a closer distance so the rounds can start to hit. And it really makes them go out of position, which is what you're trying to go for as a Japanese cruiser, because this is going to help you assist your teammates with getting them into easy ability for them to shoot. Case in point, watch the Flint. Boom, 2 citadels right then and there. And that's because I was able to pull him out from under the island. And he wasn't even able to put up the smoke yet because he didn't even know there was a battleship right there. And you see now he's trying to put up the smoke, but it's too late and he's gone. This is what you need to do as a Japanese cruiser player. Basically, you're trying to draw the enemy towards you, and that way you allow your teammates to then try to shoot them at further distances when they're out of position, and you can get the broadside attacks and you can get the good damages, and that way your team have an overall win. And you're not always going to be the hero of the game, top scorer. The Japanese cruisers excel at pulling people out of their good positions, key positions, and then you allowing your teammates to shoot on them to knock them off the board. And it's going to lead to a lot more win rates as long as you have a good teammates that you play with. But just to encompass the maneuverability of the Japanese cruiser, I was probably about 11 kilometers away from the Kansas and 9 kilometers away from all the other cruisers, and by weaving left and right, I was able to only absorb 15,000 damage, which even my heal will be able to at least recover 5,000. So I only get 10,000 damage, but because of it, we were able to get the Flint off the board, and now our 2 battleships are going to be able to clear off the board of the mines in the New Orleans, which is very successful play, and that's how you should be trying to play as a Japanese cruiser player. And this is the way you play from tier 5 to tier 7. It doesn't really matter which cruiser you play with. The only exception to that one is going to be the premium cruiser for the Japanese called Atago. But I honestly don't know how to play that one. I don't own it, so I can't really speak on that one behalf. But the Aoba, Mayoko, and Magami all play like the Suzuya, and this is how you're going to get major points and a lot of wins. If you talk to a lot of gamers out there who have the Japanese cruisers, they normally say that these are probably one of the most fun cruisers to play because there's a lot of movement in them, and you're always doing a lot of damage, setting a lot of fires, and your torpedoes are very strong. But as you can see, I'm just trying to shoot the mines, and I'm going to focus on Trial of the New Orleans and just work my way from closest to furthest, lowest health to highest health. And you'll see in the top right hand corner now, the spotted goes from none to 1, and the mines is dead. So it either has to be the New Orleans or the Iowa. So I look at my next target because he has the lower health, and I'm also able to keep my eyes on the Iowa and see that he's going to attack. So I turn into him and slow down. This is a good method when you're trying to avoid rounds and torpedoes. Turning in lowers your surface area against the enemy. Turning out kind of flares yourself so they actually see more of you. So just keep that in mind, a little trick of the trade. Now, as a Japanese player, you're not always going to be the attacker, or not even a Japanese player. As a wargaming player, you're not always going to be the attacker. You're going to have those games where everyone's going to go from A cap to C cap, and you're the only dude at A cap left, and you're like, why did everyone leave me? In those cases, the best case to do is to try to hold A off, and hopefully your team can cap C and come back to your assistance. And that's where the Japanese cruisers actually shine. It's actually retreating, and that's why they have those rear-facing torpedoes. You create those walls, you're able to shoot, you find out when the enemy is spotting you and trying to shoot you, and then you maneuver left and right, kite back and forth in order for you to create opportunities for your other teammates to go broadside once they get to the other side. So just keep that in mind when you're playing, that the real goal of the Japanese cruisers is to pull the enemy in to allow your teammates the ability to shoot them while you're setting a massive amount of front fires and doing at least 70,000 damage per game. If you get some torpedo hits, it's even higher. But I mean, this is it. These are the Japanese cruisers in a nutshell. If you play it with Makawa, you got to focus on the maneuverability build, because when you're, in a lack of words, juking the enemy's shots, there's 2 things that are going to happen. First, you're going to make them miss their shots, which is going to allow your other teammates to get into better positions while they focus on you. or the second one is they're just going to give up on shooting you because you're going to be in just unhittable, and so they don't want to try to waste 30 seconds with hopefully one shot hits you, and they're going to give up, and then you're going to rain fire on them for the rest of the game. It's not unheard of to have 13 or 15 fires with a Japanese cruiser and a Witherer medal, just because you're going to be out in the open water shooting the enemy, and they're not going to be able to do anything about it because you're so maneuverable. Now, that's the big thing about playing with Mikawa also, is that because he's so maneuverable and we build him into being maneuverable and lower detection, his range is really short, but also his detectability is really short. And that's a very strong advantage for this type of play, because it also means that when the other enemy ships are trying to follow you, that they're going to be closer to your torpedo range, and then when you fire your torpedoes, they're going to be able to hit them a little bit better. If you fire from a very long distance, it's very hard for you to shoot your really good torpedoes at the enemy. But we took out the Benson, and the game is over. Now, I didn't place high on this one, or I didn't place first on this one. I still placed pretty high. But it just goes to show, like, you don't have to be a stellar player. I mean, I got no caps. I only had 68,000 damage, but I'm in third place with 19,071 damage, or XP. So I really appreciate you guys coming to watch the game. I hope you guys learned something. This was the maneuverability and detectability build. I'll put another one later on that kind of explains how to play the IGN cruisers at a longer distance. But you kind of lose that torpedo ability, but you kind of play like island hopping. But appreciate it, guys. You guys have a good one. All right, MD Gaming out.